has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time.
Welcome to Tough Talk Tuesday, presented by Heavy Bag Boxing. We don't pull any punches. My name is Lucas Biggers. I'll be your host. Today we have Rob and James with us, presented by Heavy Bag Boxing. We don't pull any punches. My name is Lucas Biggers. I'll be your host. All right. This weekend, let's talk, before we get into the meat of it, let's talk Raleigh Romero. Guys, a lot of people are calling him dirty for that fight. Rob, I'm looking at you. What was your take on it? Was it dirty? What did you think of the performance overall?
I mean, was it dirty? I mean, it's fighting, okay? Yeah, I understand it's a sport. It's called boxing, but it's still fighting, okay? So, yeah, he might have been real dirty in the ring or whatnot. I don't know why. He might have had problems maybe with in the camp, or maybe he just didn't like the guy. But it was a little rough house tactics, flat out being called dirty though. I mean, again, to me, it's the sport of fighting. Okay, it is a sport, but it's still fighting, and it's ultimately up to the referee to use their discretion in the ring and to help out the other guy if they feel like there's too much roughhouse tactics going on. So if he can get away with it, I'm good for it.
But only if that's your fighter, right? Because I remember, back when we did a show following Marcos Maidana Mayweather, the first one, that sounded very different, my friend.
You don't have to pull up the audio or the tape on that one because I don't remember that. But Floyd won that fight hands down anyway. So it didn't matter for Floyd.
Hands down, though? I mean, that was a close fight. Hands down?
You saw what happened in the second round. So I'm just saying.
That's true. It was a push in the second one.
Damn. Lucas, you bring up the past like one of my exes.
Right.
I mean, you gotta keep it even, you know.
Oh, Jesus Christ. God.
James, what'd you think of Raleigh Romero?
Hey, that's what you get when you show up 5 pounds overweight. You're gonna get beat up. He was 5.2 pounds overweight. What do you expect, man? Raleigh had to fight him off a little bit. He's fighting 140 plus, came in 140, so he's 140 something, night of the fight. And I don't think that sat too well with Romero. He made weight, came through okay. Another thing with Romero is that he's got a little chip on his shoulder. He's got a little attitude, and it's fun to watch. He talks it, backs it up, a lot of power punches. A lot of framing with that elbow and little extracurricular activity after the break. You know what? That's just the way it is with him. He's going to be like that. I don't mean to sound negative about Romero, but he talks it up. He's flamboyant, man. So his opponent paid the price for coming in a little overweight.
Yeah. I mean,
way overweight, I should say. And it's boxing, like Rob said. It's boxing, man. It's not always clean cut. Maybe there was a little Maidana in there.
Like you said, he's a little flamboyant, and I think that stems also. He said his favorite fighter is Nazim, Prince Nazim. So I mean, it stems from that. And he admits he's kind of a street fighter. So this is kind of his style. So
Nazim Hamed?
Yes.
No, I don't consider him a dirty fighter. I just thought he was
flamboyant.
He was a show. Oh, flamboyant.
Yeah, flamboyant. Yes.
Yeah, they got to sell tickets.
Yeah. But regardless, I mean, he won. I was impressed. Is the sky the limit for him, Rob?
Well, first of all, calling out Gervonta Tank Davis right now is too bold for him. So I don't think he has that high of a ceiling right now.
So you don't think he's ready?
Not at all. Not for Tank Davis. Not for Tank. Not for Ryan Garcia. Not for any of the other fighters, at that level right now. And with him calling out Tank again is in the driver's seat because he can go anywhere from really, he's saying 135 to 140 right now. So that's probably why he's trying to call out a big name like Tank. But to me, I don't think he's ready yet. Yeah, not at all. I need to see more of him. Really, we just really are getting our first take of this guy.
So is there something like glaring flaw that you're seeing, or are you just saying overall he's just too green?
I think he's too green. It's not really the flaws per se that you're looking at, but it's the level of competition.
James, do you echo that? Do you think he's ready for a Tank Davis?
He may or may not be, but who else are you going to call out? Tank and Ryan and all, Teo. You're going to call out the big boys. You don't call out the little boys. And another thing is he just fought at 140, like I was saying earlier. So we know he can handle him. Again, he's flamboyant, man, and he's talking it up. And more power to him. Let's let him go forward. He's going to have a few extra fights in there. He's not going to get the big name so immediately. We all know that. He'll take a couple of 135ers, and then maybe if he moves up to 140, he'll take someone who's perhaps got a few losses on his record. And that's his development phase. And that's where he is. And that's a good thing. He's in a good place. Flamboyant as he is. Let's see what he does. I'm perfectly happy with his attack. He brings it, throws punches, fights inside, boxes a little. Shows pretty decent footwork. Let's check him out. Let's see what he does. He's just another piece of that pie that complicates 135 right now, and that's a good thing for boxing. That's a really good thing for boxing. That's what boxing needs.
Yeah, he's very entertaining. So I mean, regardless, I'd like to see him, but I agree with Rob. I don't think he's ready just yet for a Tank. But he gets props for at least trying to call him out. There's still, even though Tank's at the top, there's still not a ton of people calling out Tank. So props to him for that. Whether he's ready or not,
for sure.
At least he's willing to fight.
For sure.
All right, guys. I know we're about to get into it on this. Charlo Castano. Oh, man, that was one hell of a fight and a great fight, but overshadowed horrifically by this bad judging, and the bad refereeing. Let's first talk about the refereeing. One he was allowed to push off a lot. Charlo was. I've seen that early on, and then Charlo looked like he sat on that bottom rope. And as Javi said in our group chat there, this should have been ruled a knockdown. Did you guys see the same thing?
Yeah, if you get hit by a punch, the rule is you get hit by a punch. If you're held up by the ropes, or if your glove or anything touches the canvas, it's a knockdown. Right? Like that's generally the rule. So I mean, it looked like a knockdown to me. It should have been called a knockdown. But I don't think they were in Vegas. I believe they were in Texas, but this
Houston.
Or
San Antonio. San Antonio,
yeah.
But this is definitely argument for replay to get involved and be involved to look at that.
Well, here's a question. What happened to the replay? Weren't we under replay rules now, or does that change state to state or WTF?
Yeah, I think it's only in Nevada.
That's Nevada, state of Nevada.
Yeah.
The question is, why isn't it being implemented everywhere? And even then, what would be replayable? I think there's still, a gray area there. Are they going to have time? Because you can't stop the fight to try to review that knockdown. Javi, we were just talking about you. That knockdown that you were talking about held up the ropes. So you strongly believe that was a knockdown, right?
That was a knockdown. I believe that was a knockdown, and I believe that also it was great proof of not a bad referee, just inexperience. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody that's been in the game, and we've seen refs that they call that. You can catch that. Sometimes they call when somebody barely tap the canvas with their gloves. An inexperienced ref, sometimes they don't catch that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a knockdown, and I think that could have been a great factor for the results, which I'm not sure if you are talking about that yet, but I'm willing to wait for it.
All right, guys. And yeah, I strongly believe that was a knockdown too. And if it was ruled a knockdown, guys, judging or based by the judges' scorecards, he won the fight.
Yeah.
That knockdown, that mistake by that referee, green or not, that's very costly for him.
Yeah, that's a 10-8 round there, and I trust you guys on this one explicitly. But I watched it, and I watched him go down in a weird, awkward manner, but he was not. He didn't seem so fazed by any particular punch, and so when he went down, he seemed to have some balance. And he seemed to go down in a defensive mode, but I got to tell you something. I didn't see what you guys saw, and I promise I'll go back and look at it because it's, it's pretty. To me, it's pretty serious. I mean, I did go back to look at it, and what I saw was him just lowering his body, squatting, and then coming straight back up. But he was never stunned or anything, so I never really internalized that one as a knockdown. Never interpreted a knockdown there. So, again, I promise I'll go back and look at it. But as far as the ref, no, I didn't really have a problem with him. I've never heard of the guy or seen him anywhere. And it was kind of funny that he's doing a fight for an undisputed championship. And he seemed like he's a little bit green. But overall, I think he took care of business. Yeah, but that knockdown, I'll go back and look at it, man.
Yeah, I'll definitely say look back at it. And you know what? The ref. I want to make something clear. I don't think the ref did a bad job. I don't think so. I just feel like that particular thing kind of slipped out of his, his view, because you gotta go back, James. You gotta back and look at it. But I don't think he was hurt. It was more like a flash knockdown. But I think if the ropes wasn't there, the reason why I call him a knockdown is because I believe that if the rope wasn't there, he wouldn't go down. He wouldn't be able to keep his balance. He kept his balance because he had that support from the rope, and that is a knockdown, especially in a championship fight, especially in a fight of that caliber when you put all the four main belts on the line. You know what
now, this is round 3. What about round 2 where Castano went against the ropes as well?
Yeah. But I think you got to look at the difference on the knockdowns because I feel like Castano got hurt more than Charlo. And props to Charlo. And one thing that we didn't know, he can take a punch. He can definitely take a punch. He got a chin. And he's in good shape because
Mo Charlo's got a chin.
Yeah, they proved it. They proved it, and they're in top shape because they recovered really quick. And that's one thing that they in top shape. But what I'm thinking is when he came to Castano, yeah, he went down and stuff like that. But what it doesn't seem bad is because he was already taking like 2-3 steps back before he went on the rope. So it's kind of like, when a fighter's retreat. And when you do that, it's not as bad as when you're on the rope moving around and then you get flushed and then you basically get safe by the rope. Sometimes fighters automatically do that when they slow down all the way to the rope and then move around back, move out of it. To basically they use the rope to use the angle and get out as an exit.
Yeah, no. The one thing in Castano's defense is that when Charlo went down, I saw his body was squared to the ropes. When you're against the ropes, you got to stay bladed. You got to stay angled, right? Yeah, that's the way you fight. Yeah. When you're flat against the ropes, rope-a-dope style, that's where you lose points. That's where you go down. And so that's one thing against Charlo in this particular case in the third round. He was flat against the rope, so
you'll see that.
It's a hard call. It's a hard call.
It is. And, I agree with you. It didn't really seem like he was hurt or stunned, but we can't tell if he's hurt or stunned, and it really honestly doesn't even matter. If he's landing punches and that butt hits that bottom rope, to me that should be ruled a knockdown.
That usually is, and when refs called it, that basically some people is like they be like, okay, that's a good ref. I think somebody like Steve Willis will call it. Remember who we had here? This nice
Tony Weeks.
Lou Moret. Oh, Weeks.
Lou Moret. Who?
Tony
Weeks.
Tony Weeks would have called it. I believe so. And I'm not saying they're perfect judges or refs because they have their mistakes as well. They're humans. But I think they've been in the game for so long, and they know like the caliber, the type of fight that we have. I think they would have called it. But man, that like I said, the ref didn't. I didn't think he did a bad job, but I feel like some people kind of like they understand who's the A side, the B side, and sometimes I felt like basically in case of the undercard, sometimes I feel like the A side guys sometimes they kind of get the like the better end of the stick from the ref, from the judges, from the people and everything like that. From the
the benefit of the doubt. You get the benefit of the doubt.
So whatever they do wrong doesn't look that bad, and whatever you do good, they try to hype it up. But I think the boy Castano did his job, and he's proven that he's up there. Because I was there in New York when he fought Lara, and he gave Lara a hell of a fight. All right, and nobody was expecting him to do that. And I think pretty much we all saw it through social media during the weekend. If you get a draw at the men's hometown, you won. If you follow in boxing, that's like a silence code that we all know about it and we freaking hate it. But I just feel like, man, so many, dark hands moving behind the scenes for things to move fairly, this shit. But I don't know. I don't know we up there yet. Just give me my 5 minutes later. I'm willing to wait.
Yeah, no, we had a lot of riots in the United States lately. I don't think we need another riot, especially in San Antonio. So let's just play it cool.
I'm gonna put it this, right? I'm gonna just put it this way. Mauricio, okay, the WBC, Texas Commission, all right, the A side guy. Too many coincidences, too many factors in there involved, right? And the money, the whole politics with boxing. I love the sport, but we gotta call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? If probably wouldn't be the hometown guy, probably Castano would have been. His job would have been a little more appreciated than it was. And that 117, 111, blasphemy. That's just borderline crime. You robbing somebody's. Anyways, no, I don't want to start yet.
No, yeah, we can
Well,
start.
it
We're in the thick of it now. I mean, that's what it is. And yeah, I mean, James, go ahead. I'm cut you off.
How often have we seen this? How many
That's what I'm saying.
times?
It's happening
How many
now,
times have we
every
seen
single
this shit?
fight. It's happening
Well-
almost in every single fight now.
You know what? Every time boxing comes out, it gives itself a poke in the eye, and here it is again. What 9-3? You got a judge who's being paid, and it's 9-3 for Charlo.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell. There's no 8-4, and 7-5 is a bit of a stretch. But 9-3, get a rope.
Yeah, I mean that's nothing other than blatant corruption. I mean, to me, I don't know what else you could do. I hate to say it out loud because I don't want to get sued.
But it is. It is what it is.
But it is what it is. I mean,
And that's the type of thing that makes you think, like, yo, did this guy already filled up his scorecard even before the fight started or something? You know, because how can you explain a close fight, a great fight, a great action, back and forth, championship, guys fighting for the main belt and they hurt each other? Yeah, I must admit, I think Charlo hurt Brian more than Brian hurt Charlo, but Brian's pressure and output was being a problem to Charlo, and I never seen Charlo getting hit this much. Not even when Harrison won against him the first fight.
The thing with Harrison was that he was boxing beautifully,
He was.
in and out, scoring points, and it was a different situation where the mechanics of the fight were different. Here, Charlo was getting manhandled a little bit on the inside, and he didn't return fire when he should have returned fire, and he could have.
because of the
Charlo was a badass.
Exactly, because of the pressure. And don't get me wrong, Charlo looked good in a few spots. You know, I think for the most part, why he got the draw is because he actually did pick it up at the end, and I do favor him on a rematch.
But he won the last
Brian.
3 rounds.
Yeah.
yes, I gave him the last 3 rounds, but other than
he
the
saved-
last 3 rounds, I only gave him the second.
Right.
The
Yeah.
second, last 3, and that's it.
Build up that Castano did. Castano had built up some rounds. So yeah, he closed like a champ. He picked it up. You know, he tried to put himself there, but you can even see his coach saying, "You need a knockout," and he told him on the 9 because by that time it was very clear that Castano had built a lead. The unofficial scores had Castano winning up to that point. The fans, anybody with you don't even have to be 2020. Anybody with just plain eyes that's watching the fight, it could have knew that Brian had picked up the lead and he had the lead. But Nelson Vasquez, my friend, what's going on? What the guy saw? Sometimes I want to suggest maybe the judges, when they come out with this type of bullshit, maybe they should get tested. I want to see what you've been eating, what you're taking, what you've been puffing, whatever it is. Because something is affecting you. You're seeing something that 90% of the people either in there or watching from the house, they're not seeing. But some way, somehow, you saw something that nobody saw. You better explain that shit, boy.
And when it's that bad, they need to be at the post-conference. They need to be at the post-fight conference and answer to what the hell they done scored. Because this might actually stop some of this garbage from happening. I'm sorry, but this is super bad for boxing. Boxing is irreparably harmed, and it is not getting any better, okay? So if I'm a common fan, and I tune in, I'm watching this amazing fight, and then at the end, you get that bullshit-ass decision, I'm like, I'm not watching this no more. I was giving it another chance, and now it's done to me. And we only deal with it because we love it so much. I mean, we are hardcore fans. The common fan is dead for exactly this damn reason.
Yeah.
And how can we help it? Because it just keeps happening. It
you
don't matter
Now
what
I'm
we
gonna-
write or who we write it to. Shit just keeps happening.
Now I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate for y'all here, okay? I'm playing devil's advocate. Because what did Lou Moret tell us? He said you can sit a bunch of judges in the room and score a fight, and all of them have different scores. All of them do. And that is a constant movement in judging within boxing because you don't know what the specific judge is looking for. That's one side of it. The second side is it's not complete bullshit. We had a draw. Okay? If Charlo won that fight, then you can be really upset. You can be really mad. But as you stated, he did pull it on at the end and wiped the slate clean, so to speak, at the end of the fight. That being said, who's to say that there wasn't any split rounds in the fight that some of these judges called? What it to say there wasn't any rounds that the judges thought maybe could have went to either guy? Because again, you don't know what they're judging based off of. They might not be just looking at the aggression from Brian Castano. They might have been looking at the defense on Charlo.
What defense, though? He was getting batted around the ring, bro. He was getting manhandled. That's what I'm not understanding is what are they saying? Because ringside reviewers, nobody really came out and said, I see a Charlo win. The only ones that I've seen that is actual Charlo fans. I have not seen anyone reputable say Charlo won that fight. I've never even seen anyone reputable say that it was a draw, for that matter. Rob or any of you three, did you see a draw?
I didn't see a draw, and this is why I wanted to tell Robert, because Robert said, "Well, it wasn't a rivalry because Charlo didn't win." Okay, fine. That's kind of like bringing it back to Triple G Canelo. We know who won the fight,
yeah,
and we know that draw was just again another sour, bitter taste that left us after a great freaking night. That's when you go to your favorite restaurant, you eat your favorite plate, right? And you enjoy the shit out of it. And then boom, heartburn. You know what I'm saying?
Here's where your theory is flawed though in that hobby. Here's where your theory is flawed. In that Canelo versus Triple G fight, you have the people say Canelo won. And then you have people saying clearly Triple G won. And they made it a draw. Because you don't know what people are looking at. You don't know what they're seeing. You have mixed emotions there. For this fight, everybody is clearly actually saying that Charlo did not win this fight. But he didn't win.
Here's what it is.
He didn't win.
Here's what it is. It's not even always necessarily money that swings it. It's the fan base. It's who's expected to win. So automatically, they're going to lean to that person.
Yes.
All of the fans want him to win, so they're going to see what they want to see. It's kind of like one of those things, like, if you believe in God, then you're going to go out and seek church. You're going to constantly look for that answer to prove yourself right. Nobody ever looks for answers usually to prove themselves wrong. Okay? That's critical thinking a lot of people don't have. And this is the exact reason of everything that's been going on in boxing. And it's keeps happening, but you say it's not a travesty, it is not a robbery. This isn't just a fight. If this is just a regular fight, I probably agree with you. It's a draw, Castano, just take it and move on. This is a unified fight, dude. This rarely even happens in boxing, and we end up with a crap draw. A crap draw.
Yes. Same thing with...
he did not lose his belt.
He didn't lose his belt, but that man should have all of the belts. This man should be our boxing unified title, and instead, we got a draw.
Yeah. The one thing that you were mentioning earlier, Rob, was that if you get a bunch of judges in a room, there's going to be a consensus there. There may be one that sticks out, and that's what we have here. And what I'm saying here is that there's just no excuse. I mean, you got to be in that consensus. You got to be in that pocket where you agree with people. But I will say that I had it 114 twice. I had it 114 twice, and yeah, I thought it was that close. And I think that Charlo got out by the skin of his teeth simply because he fought the last 3 rounds.
Now, I'm not attacking
you know what?
James.
But Castano gave up the last 3 rounds.
He did.
He was gassed. He was gassed.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a different subject. We're talking about what Castano didn't do here. You know what? I'm not trying to be generous to Charlo or show favoritism, But I saw Castano do well when Charlo was against the ropes, which I hate to see because he fights well at center ring.
Yeah.
But he was using this tactic where he wants to connect that left hook. He wants to use that left hook when he's against the ropes, and it works. It works for a lot of fighters. But you can't just depend on that. You got to outbox him 3 minutes, and not just wait for that opportunity to land the one punch. Because what happens is that you fall behind in that round, and it's what was happening.
Yeah, but let's be honest here, though, James. I mean, I'm not mad at the 114. I'm not mad at the 115, 113. But just like the Triple G versus Canelo, just like the Canelo versus Mayweather, we have scorecards that go to the A-side guy by a wide margin. That is no way you can explain that. See, if that judge would have gave Brian Charlo, let's say, instead of that 9-3, he would have given 7-5. That wouldn't be that bad. That wouldn't be that bad because it was that type of fight. It was that such of a close fight. So I could see how somebody saw Castano way, Charlo way, really close, then the tight. But you have somebody that only saw Charlo, like Charlo wiped it off and he did it. Just like when somebody had Canelo winning against Mayweather, how you explain that? There's no way you can explain that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And this is why I'm probably gonna get a little too deep on this shit. But you have the A-side guy. We know this is the thinking of the the big power that be in boxing, right? The people that control the money and the show behind. So the way they think about it is like, if we keep these titles right here with the A-side guy that fills up these stadiums and these arenas, that's where the money is. If we gave it to the guy that come from outside, that lives somewhere in some country where boxing is not really that much a thing, and our money's gonna go where? To Argentina? To, Kazakhstan? No. They know where the money is and they know where they're gonna keep it. So that's where the A-side guy gets the better end of the stick, right? Again, if you would have like a 115, 113 with Charlo, we can see that. Fine, we can see that. But there's no way you get at 117, 111. That wasn't that type of fight. That scorecard, that you can't even explain that. Just like the way that judge couldn't explain that against how you got Canelo winning against Mayweather. Mayweather really, school his ass.
It was a clinic.
Yes.
It was a clinic.
So how in the world you explain that you saw Canelo winning that fight? By that margin too. I think it was like 117, 111 or something like that.
No, I think it was a draw.
It was blasphemous.
I thought it was a draw. I mean, even if it was a draw or a win for Canelo, it was a joke because Floyd walked all over him. And the same thing. I was going to get back to you, James, and ask you basically what rounds you did, but go ahead with what you're going to say.
Yeah. Oh, something that Javi mentioned earlier, and it's kind of an explanation or an answer to his query. This judge is being swayed by the public. They see Charlo throw a punch, the public does, and they go crazy, land or missed, scored or not, hit or miss, whatever it is. They see him throw and they go crazy, and they clap and they cheer and they ooh and ah. And this judge is being swayed by the public, and that's where we're getting these scores. And so now maybe the conversation is, should these guys be in a chamber where they don't have the influence of the audience while they're scoring?
I mean, in essence, that's a bad judge. He should not be hired. If you're easily swayed, you should not be hired.
That's my only explanation to what Javi asked.
That's fair. But I'm just saying, that's all
I can come up with. He's a paid judge. He's a professional. He should do his job, just like the fighters do. But that's the only explanation I got for his question. That's the only explanation I got.
But James, how you explain
this guy's being swayed by the fucking public.
Yeah. Okay, but you as a professional, right?
No excuse. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for this shit.
Guys, go back to the interview with Lou Moret. He told us that it happens. That happens. They do get persuaded by the crowd. They do get persuaded by that engagement.
But it's not
They're
supposed
human
to, Rob.
beings. They're
It's
human
not
beings. Do you ever not make a mistake on your job?
I'm not saying
Hell, I made 20 of them this week.
I didn't cost anybody
and
a
I'm
historical
still good.
achievement, Rob. I didn't cost anybody a
I'm still
historical
good.
achievement, son. Like, that's a big difference.
Yes.
I mess up, it's like, who cares?
To-
Nobody
to
even
you,
notices.
Imagine what that
He's
means
a
for that
judge,
guy.
man. Go ahead.
Listen, there's never been and not only that, not just for Brian and his country and his his record and everything, but we don't really get a lot. I think it's never been that much of an undisputed championship fight at 154. I don't think we had that many. Tell me somebody that was undisputed at 154 that you remember of. Nobody.
Well, I think it's
Y'all
Winky
are
Wright.
Winky
Yeah.
Wright?
I think
Nah.
it was Winky Wright.
You know what?
154.
That's a good one. I'm gonna have to go back to it to be able to find out. But look
He
how
might have
long
been
it's been
unified,
since we
but
had
he
a
wasn't
champion
undisputed,
before.
was he?
Winky Wright, I think he did become undisputed. I'm not sure.
Yeah, against Shane Mosley.
I have to get back to it. So, but
Right.
look, let's go with that one, right? Winky Wright. How long it's been since Winky Wright was undisputed champion, right?
Forever.
Not only that,
So-
now Argentina, they gave us some good boxers. I can mention a few boxers, not just from now, but from even back in the days from Argentina. That's
Huge.
Those titles going there, it would have been huge. And the reason why it didn't go there is because, the powers that be know that the money's here. So always the A side guy is gonna get the better end of the stick because at the end of the day, let's keep it real, guys.
So
Sports/business, and when business is the other 50%, they put that shit first. Then sometimes it's sport/business, and sometimes it's business/sport. So guess what? Somebody's got to make some money. Somebody got to get the money from somewhere. The A side brings the money. That's the guy that's gonna get the better end of the stick. Because we're gonna keep it at home, guys. Even though we know that he had a bad night.
So let me put it in perspective then for what you guys are saying. You're putting too much emphasis on the historics of it being a undisputed title that's on the line. And then Javi, you're making it a big deal or a big issue because you think the decision helped out, quote unquote, the A side fighter. That being said, there is no winner in this fight. Run it back. Period. All BS aside, run it back.
Nobody is going to disagree with you on that, but it's one of those things. Whether it's a historic fight, undisputed, that's we've not seen in X amount of years or months or in that weight division, or just a couple of guys fighting on a Friday night, in anywhere, in any town in the USA, anywhere. You got to have judges that do their job properly. It doesn't matter who or how big or how historic this thing is. They got to do it right. They got to get it right. And you know what we're seeing in boxing? It's wrong. And it's wrong. And again, and we have these conversations about the scoring. It's not the first one. It's not the last one. But it's got to change. Because this is like the cancer that boxing has. Is these effed up scores that we get.
Yes.
And every Argentine right now will tell you Castano got robbed. And you can't argue with that.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, James, about the one score that did get thrown off is wrong, but the outcome is still the same as what you scored it.
Right.
So all that being put aside, they still got the outcome right, in my opinion.
I don't think so. But I honestly, I don't think you would be playing devil's advocate if Charlo would have been the one looked like he won and then he got a draw. I don't think you would have been playing devil's advocate. You would have been mad, calling all type of names because
if the performance were reversed, Rob,
Exactly.
you would be like, Castano got his ass whizzed.
Yeah.
But instead,
And
You're a Charlo
and
fan.
not only that, but he will put Charlo.
No.
His pound for pound
Yes,
list
you are.
automatically.
But
Number one list undefeated. I don't see nobody beating Charlo. Guys, this guy's gonna jump on the wave. All of this stuff, like I would have seen that. But look, we're not mad at that 114 because I mean, I can see somebody call it a draw or even that 115, 113. It was a close fight. It was just more like, okay, fine. He didn't get completely robbed because the win didn't go to the other guy. It was a draw. But I feel like you rob a man from being undisputed, and then instead of being a rematch of a controversial draw, it would have been the champion that got dethroned going back to get his titles, right? Kind of like what happened with Harrison, and then Brian wouldn't got paid more, and he would have got there with a better decision, and maybe we could have seen even better fights with Brian because Brian is there. He proved that he can hang in there with a big 154s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, let's be honest here. At the end of the day, this is boxing, style make fights. I do believe that Charlo will do way much better if there's a rematch, which there gotta be an automatic rematch. But again, I don't think that just because Charlo didn't win that makes it better. There was a winner in there, and it should have been the guy from Argentina. It shouldn't have been a draw. That's why we kind of upset. And then again, it's always the same coincidence. The A side getting that better end of the stick. Mauricio, his hands moving behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? The WBC with their fees and then freaking nonsense belts, making sure that the money's in house to say. You know what I'm saying? The Al Heyman guys also being able to I wouldn't say get the better end of the stick with the judging, but always being looked at as the guys that with the money set where the most that's they're the ones that make the more money, to be honest with you, out of all promoters, out of all boxing. So guess what, when there's money involved, there's got to be some sneaky shit going on behind this. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's sports/business, and sometimes it's business first, then it's a sport.
CJ Hooker
all I
says,
can say is that I had a 6-6, but Rob, I didn't have a 9-3. There's no explanation for a 9-3.
yeah.
And there's
And
no
the
explanation
9-3
for
is
that.
the problem.
Yeah, you
Because
explain a 9-3.
you have one saying Castano won, one saying it's a draw, and then one that's a completely incorrect card. So if the card was right by actual capable judge, who would have won? Possibly Castano. It may have been a draw. Who knows? I don't know.
And what if that knockdown would have been counted?
But if you cannot account for the 117, 111, you can't. There's no way you can come up with that score. I mean, other than just not paying attention to the fight or flat out corruption, you got basically a win for Castano. Now, CJ Hooker says rematch has to happen. I agree. That 117, 111 score for Charlo was BS. Stevie Wonder could see that. And I got to agree. Now, and Rob, you said run it back, okay? But it's not always that simple, okay? And maybe you think, yes, Charlo's going to win the rematch, and maybe I would agree that he has a leg up in that. But you still robbed the man of this short period of, I'm undisputed, at least until the rematch was to happen. So, yes. And also, who's to say Charlo's going to take that rematch? He doesn't have to now. Yes,
he doesn't take that rematch,
Undisputed
he
looks
definitely
good.
looks suspect.
Undisputed looks good, but he's an A-side fighter. He can go somewhere else and fight and make a lot of money. He doesn't have to have that. Castano kind of needs Charlo. It is not vice versa. And that's part of the business of the sport as well.
Yeah. Hey, and you got a few fighters calling it how it is. Fighters that been on the better end of the stick, on the bad end of the stick, calling it. If you get a draw on the A-side guy's hometown, you won that shit. We know it. We all know it. It's just like I said, this is the type of co-silences like that in boxing, and this is sometimes the type of shit in boxing that as fans, like Lucas was saying earlier, like this is the type of shit that will turn off the casual fan that saw a great fight finish that way. But for us, it's a love and hate type of thing. We love this sport, and we freaking hate it because of shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, it's not the same running it back after a rematch, after a draw, then running back after, go get your belts back if you're really about that. You know what I'm saying? but at least let that man bring that glory to himself, to his country, to his team, to all that work. Because this is not a 6 week training camp. This is a type of thing that you give when you work your whole life for it, and it shouldn't be that one asshole judge that robs you of some type of that glory. It shouldn't be like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think, Lucas, you got a great point when you said maybe they should come to the post fight and explain, Mr. Judge, excuse my French, how the fuck you guys 117, 111? Right. Can you explain it in your own words? Maybe we can understand.
That's the problem is they never really have to be, media facing. And you're a part of the sport. In fact, you're a very important part of the sport. Just as much as the fighters, you have to answer for what you do. Even if you do actually have it on the other side, I know Lou Moret says in certain states, they will actually write on the backside of each round and say, this is why I scored it for this person, just something small, simple. Maybe that was done for this fight, but I want to see that. James, do you have your scorecard handy? I'm just curious. We don't have to share that right now. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
What rounds you had for him, so we can go back and look at that later. For Charlo. 10, 11, 12, I pretty much assume all for Charlo.
I can see that, though. I can see that.
10, 11, 12, I mean, Charlo won the championship rounds. He did. But for the most part, for me, it was a clean sweep for Castano. I gave him 2, I gave him 10, I gave him 11, and I gave him 12. But
damn, there's a lot of fights here. No, I don't.
Okay. We'll do that. We'll look at it later. But I had a thought in this going. I don't know. It's just so angering to see. For me, also how you can pretty much score a fight is what style, for the most part, did the fight play out in, and it definitely was not Charlo's because he was missing a lot of simple counter punches that were there, but he was actually seemed hesitant to let his hands go. Let's see. I don't know. I can't see it any other way than the way I scored it.
So
I want to take a deeper look at it, but go ahead, Rob.
So let's get into this then to kind of answer Javier's question on the pound for pound. What are your thoughts on Mr. Terrence Crawford tweeting out, this is why Charlo isn't a pound for pound fighter because of performances like this. Now, he didn't say he lost the fight or anything like that, but he did basically state that, man, you're not a pound for pound fighter because of performances like this.
We know why he said that. We know why he said that because Charlo.
Stop beating a dead horse.
No,
I think that's mostly beef.
Because, out of all the times where Charlo has stepped out in the competition and things got stiffer for him, he hasn't looked that great. And I think that was what I think Crawford was trying to say. Not like, you flat out. I think he said it though. I think Castano won, just like other fighters saw it. Even freaking Andre Ward called it out. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I feel like Crawford, what he meant to say when he said this is why you're not in the pound for pound is because when the competition got really, really stiff, they made you look, I guess, vulnerable in there because I never seen Charlo getting hit that much. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he make him look average, but there were times, especially in the middle rounds, where the pressure it was too much for Charlo, and he was backing up, going around the ring, and we don't really get used to see Charlo's fighting back, going back. They're usually coming forward, putting the pressure, doing that beautiful boxing of them. They have a great style. I'm not gonna say that they're bad fighters. I just feel like, I would have been more happy and just like any other fans to see the right men win, and then see Charlo getting back to get his titles and show us why he belongs there on the top. You know what I'm saying? But just don't wrap them somebody's from their their work. Like I said, just like I see. I'm blessed to work with the pro fighters now here in Orlando. And I'm telling you, This guy, when they go there, right, they prepare 6, 7, 8 weeks for a fight. But when they win those type of good fights, they don't look at it like, oh, this cost me 6 weeks. No, I got this in 25 years. I worked my whole life for this. I did this in 20 years. It's not a 6, 7 week camp. It's a whole life going after those titles, after those things. So I feel like, this is the type of thing that sometimes leaves a black eye on boxing, but it's been part of the sport. We get mad, we bitch about it, and then guess what? We go back, look at it, and we just forget. You're as good as your last fight. So after Charlo wins the rematch, which I believe he will, then it's like we brush this off. All right, let's get this out. We forgot about what happened. He won
us boxing junkies, we forget because we're like, we can move on. The common fans I don't think they forget, man. It sticks with them, and they don't like the sport because of it.
You know what? I want to see Molly Cock.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Yes. Join us now from Danger Zone Boxing.
Yes. Molly Cock, hit us with what you think.
What you thought about that fight?
Please.
Castano Charlo.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Pleasure to be here. Sorry I'm late. My phone died when I finally did get in. So, again, glad to be here. I thought that the fight was excellent. There's nothing that I could complain about other than that ridiculous 117-111 scorecard. The fight was everything that you hoped a historical fight would be. They were billing it as the first time it was going to be undisputed for 154. So I heard you guys talking about that earlier. I thought that the rounds that Charlo won more decisively. Most of the really close, hard to score rounds. I gave to Castano. I thought Castano won by a couple rounds. I know some people had Charlo winning. That's up for debate, in my opinion. But we got to do something about these judges. It's just getting ridiculous. There has to be some type of punishment when they put in scores like this, because it's as he said, it's something that we've seen throughout the history of boxing. And I do hear the common fan complain, and we need to clean it up. That's my opinion on that fight.
The question is how, because we keep doing these things and, no changes really happen. I mean, I was telling them earlier, you weren't on yet, but I would like to see to where they actually have to go to the post-fight conference and explain themselves. Nobody's going to question the draw, probably. Nobody's even going to question the 115, 113, but 117, 111 for Charlo, I mean, I can't see that as anything else other than, not paying attention to the fight at all, or just flat-out corruption.
Agreed 100%, and that's sad. I mean, it's UFC, but we've seen judges asleep while they're judging or on their phone. They've caught them on camera, and I wonder if what are these guys watching? How can you score that 117, 111? That's impossible if you actually are watching the fight and have any inkling of what you were watching.
But Malika, the thing about it is, it's okay because it's a draw. It's a draw, so it's okay. It's a draw, Bullshit. It's 117, 111. You saw something that nobody saw, and I believe you should explain that. Now, what's your thoughts on the third round? Do you feel like that was the flash knockdown that kept Charlo when he kind of got stung by that one left hook of Brian? I don't know if you talk about that.
You talking about the one along the ropes and he kind of went down on one knee? I think you could have scored that a knockdown. Okay. Maybe it should have been, and that would have made a huge difference on one of their scorecards at least, and would have swung the favor over to Castano, and we would have had for the first time, undisputed 154-pound champion.
Yeah, that would have been the difference because that 114 would have been to Castano. Yep. And the 115, 113 would have been 116, 112, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's that. No draw.
You know what? Boxing gets reviewed sometimes. We have had Pacquiao Horn. That went back and looked at the commission, and they still ruled in favor of Horn. Maybe we can get the commission to take another look at it. Maybe we can get that ruled a knockdown. Maybe we can get it overturned.
Now, I'll be honest with you guys.
Rob
says goes back to the first fight.
Rob says no.
Lucas,
no, they're not doing that.
Well, there has been fights like that. I think I mentioned that before on the show where Hassan and Dam fought in Japan against. Forgive me, I don't remember the opponent's name. And Ryota Murata.
Yeah.
And so they went back and looked at that. The commissioner of the boxing scene there, and someone who had it was in charge of WBO or WBA or whoever belt that was, went back and looked at it with 3 other judges and overturned that and ordered a rematch. And I think Murata won that fight. So it could happen. It has happened.
I don't even know if I want to order a rematch. I just want justice.
Well, you ain't gonna get that in boxing, baby. I'll tell you that.
Fights,
I think the best thing you can hope for
differently.
is a rematch.
Fights happen differently. Just like we're talking about Kovalev Ward 1 versus Kovalev Ward 2. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He technically, in my mind, Castano won this fight, and now, who cares if he loses the rematch? Because in my mind, he still got robbed of this first fight. Same thing with the Golovkin Canelo for me. I feel like Golovkin was robbed of that first fight. And, we're never going to get that corrected. And forever in history, it's wrong.
Thank you. And you know what? I was talking about history. I wanted to ask about the suggestion that you made, right? When you said, maybe the judges should be held accountable. Well, so if that happens, let's say, right, when they get suspended, when it's just too black, because sometimes they do get suspended or they get to check them. And maybe, I guess we know when this is so obvious that they're trying to make an example out of somebody, I guess, they have to have a sacrificing lamb through throwing there, right? But my question to you, Lucas, is if we were to suspend or, penalize these judges for their bullshit, will that also include the results of the fights being changed because of what happened, or just a little slap on the wrist?
I think it should. Not only should it, they should definitely go back. Kind of like police, you're found out to be a corrupt cop. I got to go back and look at shit you did before, and the shit you did before is suspect. I got to overturn that, especially if your score determined the winner, or determined it to be in this case like a majority draw. I'm sorry, but your score just gets annihilated. And in this case, if that was the case, Castano wins. Because you have one draw, and then you would have one decision for Castano.
So in that case, will the judge that got suspended or whatever, penalized, we basically take off his scorecard and we go with the other 2?
Yes, but again, just doing that and suspending them, that ain't gonna do shit. You have to publicly embarrass them. You have to make them say what this bullshit is for. You have to stand in front of all the fans and all the media and explain what the hell did you see, because nobody else saw it. Nobody else.
I think the only answer in a case like this is suspension, 6 months or whatever it is. But
honestly,
these guys are getting paid to do this shit, and if they can't get it right, they shouldn't be there.
For those of the people that do not know how boxing works, okay, if I'm a promoter, I put on a show, I am basically paying the judges already. So therefore, they're already in my pocket. People don't understand how this works. When you set up this, I pay the judges. I pay the referees. I'm doing that if it's my promotion. That's how promoters work. Therefore, if you're not doing what I like, guess what? I'm not coming back to this state. I'm not going to keep coming here. I'm going to go elsewhere with my business. And who does that hurt? The people who are getting these scorecards that are all jacked up. This is a racket. And without the federal government getting involved, this shit is just going to keep happening. Boxing has to be regulated. I hate regulation. I honestly do, especially, Fed-wise. But at this point, boxing has to have it. Baseball needed it, and it's damn time for boxing to get it too.
Wait a minute, Lucas. Are you saying boxing is a racket?
We thought it was bad when the mob ran the joint, right? It seems like that they never left.
Yeah, but with the mob, we had twice as much fun.
Hey, listen,
That's
Lucas,
true.
I'll tell you what. It went from the mob running the show into the cartel. It's a cartel now. running the show. All right, and I'm gonna just leave it to you guys up there. I'm gonna leave that guy alone with the 3 letters. I'm gonna leave him alone. You know what I'm saying? But we know who's the cartel that was running the show over there that night. He was there. I saw him. You know, every time I see him in the fights, I'm like, this motherfucker's here. Some shit's gonna happen. Some shit's gonna go down slow, sneakily. But I understand. That's a money guy.
Just to add to that, Javi, Mr. WBC was standing there with that T-shirt, putting it on Charlo, right? I mean, he couldn't even wait for Charlo to take his breath. He got all his belts in his hand. He's forcing him like, you know, with a T-shirt over his head. I thought, man, maybe he's gonna kidnap this guy and, you know, take him out. My God, I mean, Jesus Christ, can't you wait for this guy to take a breath? Let him put his belts on so he can put his own T-shirt on. I mean,
it's involved in everything.
Somebody's on crack.
It's involved in everything, and even when you have belts now that are not even really, if it's just sanctioned by like the WBC, all of a sudden you got medals. Like, what the hell's a medal for? Is that a participation trophy? What the shit is this?
Well, this is the era participation trophy. But I lost my shit when, you know, when them YouTubers had that one belt out of his first fight. When the YouTubers had a belt on his first fight, that's when I lost my shit. But then again, they're telling me how you get with the times, man. You know, this is not the 80s. This is not the 90s boxing. This is 2021 boxing. All right, fine. I guess, you know, these motherfuckers are making belts, you know, the way they're paying judges and refs. Then fine, I guess I got to get down with that, you know. I love the sport too much to walk away from it and not watch it. And believe me, that thought has crossed my mind. Every time, like, shit like Saturday happens like that, where I just want to be like, I'm done with this sport. That's it. I'm not watching this shit because I don't, you know, as a fan, you appreciate the sport. You appreciate the athletics and everything, the whole business that go behind it. You know, that's like when you go see a movie, boom, and then the lights goes off 5 minutes before the ending. How you gonna go home? Are you gonna talk about the movie? Or are you gonna be mad, even though you watched the whole movie, that you missed the actual ending?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's to the point now that almost the A side, unless they get knocked out, they're gonna win. And if they're not gonna win, they're at least gonna come out with a draw. It does not matter. And I mean, it's making it to the point, like you said, where I don't even want to watch it anymore. It's because I feel like I already know who's gonna win. Why tune in? What's the purpose? If they're giving you the ending, they're already saying, oh, well, Iron Man's going to get the things and snap his finger. Everybody going to disappear. So what's the fucking point, you know? I seen that shit in the preview. I seen it in the trailer. Why come? You know, why do this at all? Yeah. So, guys, I'm drawing a blank. So when they did the review of Pacquiao Horn, was that like the WBA or was that the actual state athletic commission? Does anybody know?
I thought they were fighting. Weren't they fighting for the WBO strap? Because that's the one Crawford took from Horn.
I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a WBO.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was the WBO the one to do the review, or was it the athletic commission?
That's a good question. I don't recall.
I might have to look that up, but because I would love to get, you know, something going. I mean, even if it's just one of those online petitions. I know a lot of times I don't mean shit for anybody, but
not to commissions or sanctioning bodies. But I do recall Teddy Atlas telling Horn, "You lost that fight," and I thought that was so out of line. I'd never seen that in my life. I mean, that is his opinion, and he's entitled to it. Great, but Jesus Christ, man, leave the fighter alone.
I don't know. I kind of like that. I mean,
it is Teddy Atlas, and he can be pretty obnoxious at times, and he is extremely knowledgeable. You know, he knows his stuff, but I don't know why he was at ringside doing that shit. I just don't get it.
Merchant's done that shit before. I don't know. I kind of like that. At least then you're gonna get like an honest response out of him. You know, I don't like the whole brown nose and let's just ask him like, "Oh, you hit him with a great left in the third." I don't want to hear none of that shit. I want to hear the real questions.
That's too commonplace. You're right.
Yeah. In fact, I want to do post-fight interviews immediately. Like, screw even talking to him. Get that 117, 111 card in here. Let's talk to you, Judge. Let's talk to you, Judge, and explain. You know, let you get hit with batteries here in Oakland or something. You know what I'm saying? Let them take their anger out on you, as it justly should be.
Great.
I'm with you.
All right. I guess we beat that horse a little dead enough. This weekend, not a ton, but we do have Joyce taking on Carlos Takam. That's for that WBC heavyweight eliminator spot, which I assume is going to basically get their shot after Usyk and Joshua to have their fight. Guys, how do you see this fight going? And let's start doing predictions.
I'll go with
Who's
Joyce.
first?
I'll go with Joyce.
Okay.
I'll go with him. Also, after this, guys, I'd like to talk a little bit on the first fight from last Saturday, and then that Rolly guy. We're gonna touch on him a little bit.
Well, we kind of did a touch on Rolly
We did a little bit
to open the show, but we'll take your comments on that one. As far as Joyce, Carlos Takam, I'm going with Takam. He's just got him on experience. Joyce lacks one thing that's kind of important in boxing, and it's called speed. And he's probably faster than me, but we're both about as slow as a glacier. And Jesus Christ, man, I want to see Carlos Takam. You know, he's got 39 wins on his record, and there's some belts up for grabs here. So, you know, it's a silver title and an international title there. Hopefully we get a good scrap. But Carlos Takam all the way.
Rob?
Yeah, who's next?
I like Joyce. I mean, the kid's flawed. Don't get me wrong. He definitely is flawed. And a lot of that is just he's a little too green right now. But he's got a lot of upsides and that power. He does have a good amount of power for that division. I just like the kid. He's put on some shows where you actually think he's gonna lose, and then he pulls out a victory. So I like Joyce.
All right, Malachi.
Yeah, I'm taking Joyce as well. Let me share, Sean. Yeah, I'm taking Joyce as well. In his last fight, I believe he fought Daniel Du Bois, and I went the opposite way for a lot of the reasons, as was just stated. You know, he's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't have the greatest speed, but he pulled out that win. I can see why people would take Takam. He's been on. He's fought for these minor belts quite often, and he actually, when he does fight for these belts, is when he looks sharp, and he always comes to fight. The fights that he has lost in his career against the big name guys in that division, and he's put on a good show against them. He's just always fallen short. I'm going to take Joyce here, but I wouldn't be shocked if Takam were to win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually leaning towards Takam, but like you said, I mean, every time he steps up against a big name in the division, he comes up short. Every single time.
This really isn't a big name in the division. It's a up and comer in the division.
Joyce is a name, yes. I mean, he may not be an established name yet. Like, he doesn't have a belt, where it's not for a title, but he's a name nonetheless. And it's still a step up for as far as that's concerned. But it's not, he's definitely only 13-0 or 12-0. So yeah, I mean, Takam's got him an experience, but yeah, I agree. I see Joyce winning this one. I don't know if he's gonna be able to knock him out, but that's pretty much what he's gonna have to do to win this, because Joyce, like you said, he's a little slow. But
no, he's slower than molasses.
You don't have to be super fast in the heavyweight division, though.
Well, yeah, they are heavyweights now, so that's it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But he got TKO'd by Chisora and Anthony Joshua, so I think it's coming. Carlos Takam here.
Yeah, well, maybe possible. But yeah, I think I'm gonna pick Joyce too. So I think you're standing alone there this week, buddy.
All right.
Javi, where you go?
I'm right here, guys. Hold on.
Okay.
Question.
We're pretty much done because we did talk about that stuff, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and rant.
No, okay, no. I mean, I just wanted to know that you guys touched on that. I won't beat over that dead horse. Did we touch on the first fight of the night though? Because that's also that. I think we also got a wrong decision in there. I think Aline.
Emmanuel.
We did it.
Emmanuel at 154.
Emmanuel versus I forgot the other names.
No, we didn't. We didn't touch on that one.
Okay, if you guys go back and see that fight,
That is Amilcar Vidal.
there you go. I believe Aline, right, the Jamaican guy, I believe he pulled it off, and he did not get the good decision as well. That was something that I just want to make sure that's in fly under the rug, because when that happened, that's when my red, when that red alarm that pops off, boom, something is going on, or when your smoke detector start beeping, boom, boom, boom. That's when I saw that decision, which I think great fight as well, but I don't think the right man won. That's when I said, ooh. Then that's when I already knew. I was like, look at this WBC guy over there. I see you. Then we also have Samson, the one that brings the guys from South America, Argentina. He also got some crazy pool in there, by the way. But I believe on that fight, like I said, you guys have to go back and see it. I don't think the right man won, and that's when my red alarm went off and got me on my toes, because it's like, there's a lot of fishy shit going on. Let me put my glasses, my 3D glasses, you know what I'm saying, trying to see what's going on out there. I just want to make sure that you guys know that. I don't know if you guys noticed that, or if you guys don't remember. I will suggest to watch that one fight. You will see that the scoring, and it was also suspect as hell.
What do you guys think about this? Just an idea. And I know open scoring has been done in the past.
Yeah.
But what do you think about more of an iPad type thing, right? Each judge has one. They can put, just like we do with our fight score pad on our phones and stuff, as we're keeping score. So they can keep score, write a quick statement of why, right? So the open scoring is then applied, at the Titantron, whatever, live feed. So you would be able to see, one, the open scoring. You would know who's currently winning, which would cause more action, right? And it would also hold the judges responsible, because you have to say why you're ahead. And they can put that on the TV. So you can be like, hey, judge, whatever has this because he saw, more heavy punches landed by Charlo.
Well, some countries have open scoring, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We see that in some, maybe in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have that, and I think it's effective.
And we had it for a few fights. We've seen it. I mean, statewide.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they did away with it because it wasn't very popular.
Terrible.
It was.
Open scoring was terrible.
It was. I agree with you, but it could be done differently, is what I'm trying to say.
What was terrible about it? Why didn't it work?
Because the other fighters would realize that they're completely out of the fight and just quit fighting.
Ah. Okay, well that's not a tactical thing. If you quit, you quit.
Mm-hmm.
But it would also cause some of those people, like you said, Rob. Yeah, some of them are going to quit, but the other ones would be going for a knockout and might end up going out on their shield.
Yeah, and that never came to fruition. It was the open scoring. The last one I think they did it was in Texas when they were doing it, and I believe wasn't it the Canelo? It was one of Canelo's fights, and I want to say it was him versus Trout or something like that.
Versus after
I like Lucas's idea. I think the asking the ref or the judges to make a statement on why a fighter won a round in between rounds, which is it would have to be real brief. It couldn't be anything in detail with the amount of time that you have. But I like the idea of making them, be part of the press conference, explain what they saw, and because I would have loved to have heard his explanation for how the hell he scored it 117, 111. I could even live with 115, whatever. That was just ridiculous, and that guy shouldn't be, because these judges, they're messing with people's lives. They're messing with these guys' families' future, because every time these guys enter the ring, that's more punches to the head, more damage that this person's taken, and they're doing it. Some of them for legacy, but a lot of them to feed their families, change their lives, and these judges are fucking with these people's future and the future they have with their families, and I don't like it. There's got to be some type of criteria, and you shouldn't just be able to go up, fill up some paperwork, and hey, you're a judge.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell a jab from a left hook, but you're a judge of a boxing match.
That's the other thing. You have to pay, what is it, $100 per state?
Yeah.
To become a judge?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how experienced you have to be, but to Malika's point, he said, these guys, listen, man, like I said, I'm blessed to work with the pro fighters. And when you get to meet them and you get to talk and you see how they work every day, man, day in, day out, listen, sometimes they go into a fight, they win the fight, and then they're stressing because they got caught with certain punch that buckle him. And they're stressing that shit. Imagine how's that playing on their mental health when you actually know that you won.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get the best decision. That shit, as a fighter, has to, And we've seen some fighters not coming back after that. That we're going, they were on the way up, being a factor, being a name out there, and they could have never recovered after that. Look at what happened to that. Just a quick reference. Julio Cesar Chavez versus Medrick Taylor. Medrick Taylor could have never recovered after that.
Mm-hmm.
How many times we see this shit with Mauricio Herrera when he got robbed, when he came to spoil the whole party on the A side and he couldn't get a decision. And I believe 2 of those were in Texas when he didn't get the decision. But again, I leave you guys that. I leave some homework for you guys to find out.
Kovalev was the same way to me. I mean, if you look at it, I don't think Kovalev was ever the same after he got robbed against Ward.
Because after that,
but that was somewhat at the end of his career, though. I mean, he had been around.
True.
And that was a Tony Weeks stoppage, and I think that he got hit low, was feeling the pain, and got called off. Man, that was rough. That was a rough pill to swallow, but that was a rough one. Yeah. So yes, you're right.
I'll take it one step further. Let's put a hot mic on the judges as well. Why not? Come to them real quick in between rounds. Say, hey, how you seeing that fight? I'm scoring that round 10-9. I really like what I saw from Charlo, ring generalship, all that. That's all it takes. That's quick. I'm not saying you have to speak to them every single round, but you get that audio recording at least. You get what they're saying. And then you can play that as a package later on. You can add that as a rewatch feature, and you go back and watch that fight a second time, and they can add that in. But something has to be done.
Exactly. And you know what, Lucas? It's kind of like asking Nelson Vasquez to explain that 117 to 111. It's like telling somebody, listen, you're gonna be in front of a burn house with a gas tank on your hand and a box of matches, and explaining how you didn't burn the house. How the fuck are you gonna be able to explain that shit? You know what I'm saying? So it's like asking this dude to try to explain. I mean, I would love to see an explanation to see what he saw. Maybe in words, we can put his visuals into words and understand it better. But it's not about Nelson Vasquez. It's not about what happened in Saturday. It's about the whole freaking politics in boxing and the dirty shit that happens that give us this, like again, this blasphemous shit. We kind of like just rub it off. Next week we'll forget about it. We'll talk about other fights and shit like that. But like you said, somebody got robbed. Like Malika said, somebody's not gonna be able to taste that glory because some dickhead had a bad night.
But we were talking about scores earlier, Lucas.
Yeah.
And I went back and found that fight. And basically, what happened here is I'm on Judge Pad. I didn't book that fight as a date properly, so I went back to the very first fight.
Gotcha.
So hundreds of fights back, right? But it's the very first one. So to answer your question, round number 2, round number 5, round number 8, and then 10, 11, and 12. Those were the ones I scored for Charlo.
Okay.
I came up with 114 twice there.
And that was for me.
The others, you know, I didn't give him a 10-8 there, so that would have changed it right there.
Yeah.
But moral of the story is book your dates properly on Judge Pad, otherwise you get lost.
Well, I'm gonna definitely rewatch 5 and 8, and you know, try to see what
Whatever,
you saw.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
And I'm not saying again that it couldn't have been a draw. It definitely could have been, but definitely not a Charlo win by any stretch of the means.
Well, in closing, what I'd really like to add, just right quick, is
Sure.
that Charlo had an undisputed title before him and failed to seal the deal. Should have done it. Could have done it and failed to do it. And hats off to Castano.
I just want to say I think it's sad that we're sitting around here after a fight of that magnitude and as quality of a fight as it was. It was a very fun fight to watch.
Yeah.
I think that if you were a casual or a hardcore boxing fan, you came away happy with what you saw, minus the decision. And that's the problem, is we're sitting around instead of talking about how we can't wait for other divisions to get on board and get with this undisputed, because undisputed seems to be the theme of 2021. Undisputed, everybody's fighting for undisputed titles. 2021, we've had a lot of them. Hopefully, we're gonna get some more. But we're sitting around talking about a trash scorecard and a judge who shouldn't be judging boxing, instead of this outstanding fight and what it means moving forward. I think that's sad.
Agreed.
Incredibly
Agreed.
sad. Incredibly
Agreed.
sad. It makes us
And
all.
talking about undisputed, guys, just I want to make pardon me, Lucas. I want to make a quick shout out because we have actually a boxing event right here in Kissimmee this Saturday. It's going to be amateur fights, pro fights, boxing fights, and even UFC fights.
Cool.
And the promotion is Undisputed. I believe we had him before the show.
Okay.
Can't recall his name right now, but you know he's putting up a great show. I'm Team Evolution, so we're gonna be there in the house. We got a few fighters, amateur and pros, that are gonna be there, and it's gonna be a night out of boxing. Hopefully, I can get some footage and send it to you guys and put it on the page. Heavy boxing, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully, we also work on some shirts, Lucas. I can go over there and represent.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, definitely, man. I'm just excited about that. I got a few friends of mine that I've told them about the show. I don't know if they're watching, but I just want to make sure that people out there know that we just don't talk about the main fights and stuff like that. Especially me, like I said, I can sit down and watch an amateur fight, and I can appreciate the sport even from the professionals. And we support the boxing sport from the guy that nobody knows with 3-0 to the guy that's fighting for the undisputed championship belts out there, on the big network, Showtime, ESPN, everybody. This is what we do.
Yes.
We I pretty much love the sport, and some of us is like a bipolar situation, and we love to hate it. So at the end of the day, this is what we do, and the reason why we go so hard, and the reason why we're so passionate about what we say is because we watched this shit for years. Some of us grew up with this shit, so it's really like it's sad when we see shit like that, and we shouldn't get used to it. Like, oh well, get with it, get used to boxing politics. No, that doesn't make sense. You shouldn't get used to it. It should be stopped. There should be a solution to it, and then we can have better. And maybe then they didn't have to worry about ratings and why boxing is dead and stuff like that. No. If you keep it real like they used to keep it back then, maybe boxing will be a big mainstream sport like it used to be. Maybe we have Friday nights again. Tuesdays after dark. And watch champions develop from those little small promotional cars to the big, MGM cars, Vegas, and all this stuff.
Well said. I would love to see, coming back for some ESPN Friday night fights. And I do want to echo what you said, Javi. I mean, we do cover, all levels of the sport. So hopefully here soon, we are going to start having the local promoters start opening back up here. So we're going to have exclusive footage, too, for you guys. So stay tuned to everything Heavy Bag Boxing, all of our social media at Heavy Bag Boxing, and the website, www.heavybagboxing.com. Thank you, Malachi, again for joining us there at Danger Zone Boxing. Thanks, James, Rob, and Javi for coming on, and we'll see you again next week. Tuesday,
right,
like
guys.
every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, or 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, and have a good night.
All right, so great night, guys. You already know. Don't get in trouble. Don't start no fights. If you